Why don't you tell me what might have happened on the night of June 12th, 1994? And let's just walk through the night.
Well, first of all, this is very difficult for me to do this. It was very difficult for me because it's hypothetical. I know and I accept the fact that people are going to feel whatever way they're going to feel. You know, they're going to, you know, whatever they want to feel.
ClowdyWorld. And remember OJ Simpson? We're gonna break down who he was before the trial, his early life, and in a way, how he charmed America. OJ Simpson was 6 foot and 212 pounds. Simpson was a record-setting back for the Southern Cal Trojans and Buffalo Bills. Now, the strength to break and the jukes to embarrass defensive players, his movements were breathtaking. As a college junior, his magnificent broken field run in 1967 against #1 UCLA carried USC into the Rose Bowl and the national championship. As a senior, he won the Heisman Trophy. Simpson was not only the greatest player I ever had, he was the greatest player anyone ever had. The late John McKay, his coach at USC. With Buffalo, he became the first National Football League player to crack the 2,000-yard barrier, and he remains the only player to achieve the milestone in 14 games. He set records since broken by running 273 yards in one game and scoring 23 touchdowns in the season. He led the NFL in rushing 4 times in a 5-year span and finished his 11-year career with 11,236 yards, and then number 2nd all time and now number 11. Off the field, Simpson made a concussion decision to project a positive image and to distance himself from the teenage OJ, who was a troublemaker and spent time in correctional center. He had an innate way of communicating warmth and charm that lifted him to an almost mythical level and made him the first African American athlete to be merchandised on a grand scale. He was an African American man interacting with a large audience as if he were a natural part of everyone's society at a very early era where that wasn't very common. Now, overtly, Simpson sidestepped the entire issues of everything, appearing apolitical, which is how the business community and the audiences accepted him. All of which catapulted him to a level of financial success unknown to most athletes of any type of his time. He was a young man who did not thrust his fist at anyone's face, but also extended an open-handed friendship and was never one to shy away from competition. Some even believed that there may have been a darker image. Now, many people don't understand. One of his fights at an early age landed the 15-year-old and a high school sophomore in the youth guidance center for about a week. He's a great guy, but he wasn't any angel, said Joe Bell, a friend from high school. The circumstances had been just slightly tilted. Instead of football star, he could have been public enemy #1. Now, while Simpson played football at Galileo High School, he had poor grades and didn't receive any scholarship offers. However, after breaking junior college records at the city of San Francisco, he was heavily recruited, and Simpson chose Southern Cal, the only place he wanted to play for it. His most outstanding movement came against unbeaten UCLA. His amazing 64-yard touchdown run, in which he veered toward the left sideline before angling back to the middle, gave USC a 21-20 victory and its berth in the Rose Bowl, where it defeated Indiana. Now, in his Heisman-winning senior year, Simpson set NCAA records for his most yards rushing in a regular season, which was 1,709, and most carries at 355. Counting the 2 Rose Bowls, Simpson finished his 2-year career with 3,400 yards, and in 17 to 21 games, the 2-time All-American ran for more than 100 yards, and 5 times, 4 as a senior, gaining more than 200. Now, in the first selection of the 1969 draft, his first 3 years with Buffalo were frustrating as head coaches John Ronch and Harvey Johnson didn't believe in building their offenses around him. And when Lou Saban took over in 1972, he recognized what McKay had found at USC. The most breathtaking facet of Simpson's ability was the more he carried, the better he got. Simpson led the NFL with 1,251 rushing yards, and he was just warming up for 1973. He passed 1,000 yards halfway through the season and ran for 219 in the next to last game, leaving 197 short of 2,000. In the Snow of Shea Stadium, Simpson slashed his way of 200 yards, giving him 2,003. Now, after injuries led him to 100 and 250 yards in 1974, Simpson had another banner season in 1975, rushing for 1,817 yards and scoring 23 touchdowns. He won his final rushing season title the next season with 1,503. Now, injuries impacted him to 7 games in 1977, and then he was traded to San Francisco for 5 draft choices, including a number 1, but Simpson wasn't worth the price as he gained a total of 1,053 yards and averaged less than 2 or 4 yards to carry his final 2 NFL seasons. Now, after retiring, he acted in Cassandra Crossing, The Tower Inferno, and the Naked Gun trilogy, but no one ever mentioned him in the same breath with Olivier. He also became a sportscaster, and while football came easy for Simpson, broadcasting didn't, and he was criticized for being inarticulate. It was a really different era where in sports media, they took a lot of things very serious, and in this era, he'd probably be heralded for being one of the more up-to-date and more of the more articulate responses. Now, however, his bubbling personality kept him popular with viewers. In 1989, when he was charged for the issues with Nicole Brown, his second wife, he then had issues where he even said he would handle her in front of the police. He was placed on 2 years probation in order to undergo psychiatric counseling and perform community service after pleading to no contest. On June 12, 1994, as we all know, Nicole and Ronald were brutally done in Los Angeles. 5 days later, Simpson was charged with both of them. He pleaded absolutely, positively, 100% not guilty. And on October 13th, I apologize, no Friday the 13th, no jokes. On the 3rd of 1995, he was acquitted. One of the biggest and most amazing comebacks in civil history. However, in a civil wrongful trial, Simpson was found liable for the passing of Brown and Goldman. And in February 1997, the jury ordered Simpson to pay $33.5 million in compensatory and punitive damages. You'll never be able to hear OJ Simpson's name or even watch the great vintage footage of OJ. Is one of the very greatest players of all time who ever lived without thinking of this tragedy. Their broadcaster Bob Costas, who worked for NBC's NFL, but that's the consequence of what happened.